This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network, the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. This is a show where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams, and how you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. What do you think of when you hear the word dream? Do you think of fantasy, hope, inspiration, creativity, wishes, scary or weird images, or maybe reconnecting in the night with a departed loved one? What if you were to add the word medicine into the mix? That's the subject of the latest book by my guest, Dr. Kimberly Mascaro. Kimberly is a holistic psychotherapist who has long used dreams to help promote healing and personal development. Her book, Dream Medicine, The Intersection of Wellness and Consciousness, explores how to make the most beneficial use of your dreaming experience. And with that, welcome to Dream Power Radio, Kim.
Hi, thank you for having me, Debbie. Great to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Kim, a lot of people hearing this might think that using dreams to promote healing is something new, but actually it's a practice almost as old as dreaming itself. So could you talk about how dreams were used like this in olden times?
Yes, well, we have some evidence that dreams were used with healing in Greece, Egypt, and really across the ancient worlds, where people would, incubate or ask a question to a dream, and maybe even, or ask a question before they go to sleep, talking to the dreaming consciousness there. And also in special places, special temples and sacred sites and such. So these practices, like you said, dreaming is as old as time, as old as dreams itself. And these practices are known to be done across the world in ancient times all the way up until present day. They're just not written about or so popular in contemporary Western culture as they may have been, years and centuries ago.
Yeah. What makes you think that it kind of fell out of favor in our Western world?
Well, that can be a bit of a dicey topic, because when you have a strong relationship with your dreams, so that, there's so many names for this, right? Our dreaming self, our dreaming consciousness, higher self, so many different names. But when we have a strong relationship with that part of ourselves, we become our own authority. And that gets really heated, doesn't it? Because not everyone wants individuals to be their own authority. We have structures in place that act, whether they're in religious institutions or other institutions that act as authority. And so that, you're asking a really big question. Even if we look at the history of psychiatry and psychology, there was a time when kind of the mind and spirit split from the body. There is good reason for that. But the sad thing about us becoming more, I think, materialist, if you will, has led to this split that we even see today, where people are not as connected with their inner self and their higher self as I think would be healthy.
And dreams are obviously one way to promote that.
Definitely. Yeah. And medicine, hence the second word of my book title, medicine is any kind of health practice. So when we look at it from the broadest definition, which again is in the initial pages of my book, when we look at it from that broadest definition, dreams can be included there. They can be used as a feedback system and can reflect what's going on inside of our bodies. And so I love bringing just that together, dreams and medicine. Let's put those two words alongside and get a hot conversation going here. So if I may share too, a couple women that really inspired me so many people inspired this book, but two just right off the top of my head were Wanda Easter Birch and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. And both of them are also mentioned in the book Dream Medicine for how they use dreams to help them during their breast cancer journey. Okay, and so if anyone, any woman's listening that has had a breast cancer diagnosis, these are people who've written books about such a topic. And so because I had a diagnosis in 2019, my book gets into that as well. And between the three of us, Wanda and Kathleen and myself, we went different routes of how we chose the treatment path and what we chose to do. But what was similar is that dreams were the guides, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, Kat was actually the second guest on Dream Power Radio. I had met her many years ago and totally inspired by her and her story. And I came into dream work sort of late in life. And so hearing her story and knowing my story just further cemented my belief in the power of dreams. And yeah, it is amazing. But I want you to step back a little bit behind that and just tell me how you just got involved in dream work itself.
Sure. It was like between, I want to say 2004, 2005. I can't exactly pinpoint it, but it was when I started I was living in the Bay Area at the time, the San Francisco Bay Area in California, and had started to take courses with a group of people that were, identified as Gnostic type of mystics. And they, I'll just say, opened my world up to dreams and and again, let me insert here, if we take the word dream and expand that definition, because you mentioned in your intro, dreams of the day too, but they just really broadened my definition and understanding of what dreams are and what they can be and how we can use non-ordinary or altered states of consciousness for so much, for guidance and for health benefits. And you name it, to learn, to have an understanding of how the world, how this all works. So that's how it began for me. And then from there, it's always so hard to piece together a timeline. I feel like I actually forget half of my life. So from there, I also did doctoral dissertation work on pregnant women's dreams by my mentor, and he was on my dissertation committee. His name is Dr. Stanley Krippner, an amazing dreamer. He invited me to a dream group that he was leading and participating in. And that took it to another level where we practiced the almond method of dream appreciation. And so between the background with the mysticism and dreaming, and then this other way of doing projective dream work, this all kind of just came together to really build layers and layers upon how I understood dreams to be, what they could do, what they were. It was quite an incredible time. And it still is, because I'm still learning. I mean, this is a lifetime skill, a lifetime endeavor.
I totally agree with you about that part. But I want to get to the dreams that you had when you were actually also dealing with a physical issue, and tell me how those intersected and what resulted from that.
Well, maybe I should just say first that it can be really scary to get a diagnosis and trust dreams if you have no relationship with them. So fortunately for me, I had built this relationship, and so it didn't seem as scary. So I had used dreams to inform choices and decisions in relationships and career, things like that, where to live. So I had some trust in my dreaming life already. So that in 2019, when I was diagnosed, I was surprised, but not surprised. And if I go to my dreaming journal and look back, there is about a year of dreams that suggested strongly suggested in some cases that something was wrong. One so much that two spiritual friends appeared in a dream and were showing me both a medical chart and a divinatory chart. And it was like they were both one. I also had other dreams where I was in places that were also two things in one. A courthouse and a church. Couldn't figure out, was I in a courthouse or a church? I called that dream the divine courthouse. And so like this, the one with the chart, it was like divination's taking place here, but hey, this is a medical chart I need to pay attention to. So dreams like that were suggestive that something was going on. And also dreams where I was given a healing staff, things like that. So like healing was starting to take place as well. And yeah, it was pretty incredible. There were others with animals that, as I started to then enter more shamanic practice, that later clearly became power animals. Initially, it was a bit of a jumble where I had to kind of figure out what's really going on here. And is this coming from a place of anxiety? Is this coming from my higher self? We can ask a lot of questions and get shaky when big decisions have to be made.
While you were having these dreams, were you thinking that they had to deal with your health, or was it not until you actually got a diagnosis that you went back and saw how they were sort of?
Well, because I pay attention to them, I record them in my audio recorder, then transcribe them, sometimes draw them. It wasn't like they were just kind of put down quickly and forgotten about. So there was something that was kind of like, something's going on here. Normally people don't share too much on podcasts about their own body, but I will for any women listening. I already had dense tissue, and knowing that makes things kind of hard to figure out. So a diagnosis can come later than earlier. So there's always that part of me that knew, I had to pay attention to stuff, knew I wasn't maybe the healthiest I could be at the time. But to answer your question, it was kind of like this middle place where I was not completely ignoring them, but I wasn't doing probably as much action as maybe I could have at the time.
Well, then tell me what happened after you got the diagnosis and the dreams that you had then.
Gosh, there's so many. So about 2 months, actually almost to the date, about 2 months after the diagnosis, I had a lucid dream where I asked the dreaming mind. That's a term I have had colleagues use. We all have different terms for that dream consciousness. But in this dream, I directly said dreaming mind, and I asked two questions separately though, but in the same lucid dream. And one was, what's how to heal? I think I asked that one first. And the second was what is the root cause of the condition? And yeah, so now that I'm in my intellectual mind, part of me wants to say I should ask them in the other order, but that was the order I asked them in. And I was given imagery, as I didn't have anything auditory happen. No one, suddenly appeared or anything to tell me directly, but I had some interesting imagery. And the first image that came to me after asking how to heal was almost like a mere reflection of it could have been me, something, a human form. It could have been me sitting in a lotus posture, but chalked in like white. And that I'm still trying to understand. But I got this sense that, okay, as far as healing goes, the meditative practices that I've been so immersed in for many, many years were going to be helpful in healing. And then in that lucid dream, it was almost like I opened into a different space and then came back into my living room where the lucid dream was taking place. I was in my dream body there, apparently. And then asked the dreaming mind about the root cause, and then got a very interesting face. It was almost like an alien kind of face, not the alien you see in the silver, big-headed costume, but something else. And of course, my head could run with all kinds of interesting things with what that could mean. But my initial gut feeling was something foreign, like a bacteria, a virus, something like that. I do want to say it's really important to pay attention to the initial hunches. It's really important to pay attention to the hunch, the gut response, the feeling of the dream, where it's so easy for us to go in the head and intellectualize what does this mean. But if I stuck to that feeling, it was like, okay, foreign invader was essentially what came to me. And it was a couple of years later that I learned that my body was hosting some viruses and bacteria, some which are associated with the illness. So that dream was puzzling and informative. And the more I worked the dream, the more I seemed to understand what it was trying to tell me. And what I mean by worked the dream, some of your listeners may want to know, is that how I like to work dreams, not just write them down, or like one of my teachers, Robert Moss, told me, give the dream a title, check in with the feeling state, things like that, but also sketch the dream. I've always drawn or sketched my dreams because I'm a visual person and an artist. And so that was really helpful. And then after the initial sketch, I turned it into a very large painting, 4 feet by 4 feet, in fact. And that is on one of my living room walls, not the dream paintings you see behind me here, but on another wall that just reminds me of what I need to do to pay attention to this dream. And something funny happened. This is really, really weird. And I thought it was so weird that I asked other people about it. So I decided to only paint the response to one of the questions, which was dreaming mind, show me how to heal this condition. And so in the painting, I knew I was going to paint a white figure. And so something I've done since art school, because my bachelor's degree is in fine art. I was a painter. Well, I guess I still am. But I literally painted my body. And I've done that before. So I just got a roller and painted my upper body in white paint, walked it right up to the canvas, kind of smashed my chest or breast right on it, and came away from it. And what kind of creeped me out, the paint that stuck from my, chest and breast and upper stomach onto that canvas when I pulled away, what was left there looked like a face. And it reminded me of the face that I was shown, that kind of alien-like creature that I was shown when I threw the second part of the second question into the dreaming consciousness. And so I tried to cover that face up. And even to this day, you can still see it when you see the painting.
Yeah, well, so, it was meant to be there.
That's kind of what I'm just going to go with. Let's just go with that.
Absolutely. Well, I tell you, on that, we need to take a short break now. We are speaking about dreams and health with Dr. Kimberly Mascaro, and we'll be right back. What do Thomas Jefferson, Elias Howe, and Paul McCartney have in common? They all understood the value of dreams, and as a result, the ideas, inventions, and creations from their dreams affect us to this day. What great ideas are you leaving on your pillow at night? Sign up for a complimentary consultation at my website, thedreamcoach.net, and discover why your dreams are a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking all about dreams with Dr. Kimberly Mascaro. Well, Kim, you talked about how important these dreams were in helping you to understand what was going on with your body. If somebody listening here who's maybe, a dreamer, remembers their dreams, wants to learn more about how they can use dreams to heal themselves, what is your suggestion?
Well, I would say that it really has to start with tracking and logging our dreams. So if someone's new to this, and if we're going to want to use our dreams as guidance and trust and act on what they're showing and telling us, then we need to build a relationship with that part of ourselves. So again, it all starts, I believe, with tracking and logging dreams. And you can do that either with an old-fashioned notepad or journal and pen at the side of your bed, waiting for you to wake up and log them that way. And that's how I began. And after a while, I got tired of that. So I just grabbed my phone and put it in the voice memo and then transcribed it later. Some people like to wake up and just do quick sketches or make bullet points. And others go to their computer and type them in more at length so that over time they can use the kind of Control F, the find option, and look and start to kind of code and look for themes that reemerge. But no matter what we do, and we can try different things, stick with something, let's say for a month, and then and see how that feels. And then, try another way to find the way of tracking that's right for you. Some people too like to go straight to tracking the narrative, writing in more of a narrative form. We always suggest, as dreamers, typically suggest that you do it in the present tense. So instead of, I walked down the street and went into a store, is I'm walking down the street and I'm entering a store, or I enter a store, something like that, keeping it present. And if you like to do narrative in that way, that's great. Other people prefer to just quickly note some bullet points, give the dream a title, and initially write what was the feeling response that you have and do a quick sketch. So there's no one right way, as you hear me conveying, but what is really important is that the practice is taken seriously and it's done consistently. So let's say you're doing this and you're not recalling dreams right away, for example. Just just engage in the practice and make a commitment. And that way, as soon as you wake up, don't move, stay still in bed, keep your eyes closed, try not to move, and just capture whatever you can. It could be a color or just a subtle memory or a feeling even. Anything is better than nothing. And just put that right there in your journal. Date it, put the date, the time. This is what people do when they log, dreams in the morning. But sometimes people have a better response by just taking naps every day and having their practice come out of nap time. There's some really, really great, powerful stuff that can come out of midday napping. So if morning just doesn't work, but let's say you're able to do, a 20-minute power nap in the afternoon, see if you can take your practice from there, or both.
Do you incubate all of your dreams, or do they just sometimes come spontaneously?
No, I don't. I don't do dream incubation that often, maybe once a month if I'm, just going to kind of guess. But I try to tell myself that this is important by at least doing the practice that I was just talking about. And by doing it, I should mention that this can kind of help with recall because we're just building a relationship with that part of ourself. And so with dream incubation, that's another thing that a person can bring in at any time. Naps, nighttime, every day, once a month. But if you're going to do it daily, maybe stick with the same question for the week or for several days, so you can get even more and more information. Many people who dream know that often we can get dream information in dreams that doesn't just come from one night. It can come from a dream the next night or later that week. So would you like me to tell you a little bit about a way to incubate a dream?
Sure.
Okay. What I like to do is write the question I have, an open-ended question, onto like a little 3x5 card or a piece of paper and put it under my pillow. So instead of just a simple yes/no type question, a larger, more open-ended question. Even what I like to say often is just show me what I need to know about this condition. Or if I'm really wanting something specific, I may ask for a healing to take place in the dream. So I could even ask for that. Please bring me, healing energy in tonight's dream. Maybe show me what I need to know, things like that. Other people, though, will have a question and contemplate during the day or bring it into a meditation practice. And that can be a way where you're thinking of that question as you fall asleep as well. How about for you, Debbie? Is there a way you think of dreams?
Well, I do a little bit of a combination. I mean, if there's something I really want my dream to help me with, I will think about it till I can get it down to like a one sentence question, not like this whole rambling thing, but just get it down to one sentence. Then I will write it down, put it under my pillow, and right before going to bed, we'll just repeat it several times over and over as I'm starting to fall asleep. And that usually yields a little nugget that I can use and chew on and grow from there. But I want to just get back to the whole idea of dream medicine and ask you that if you think that we will go back to those times like they did in the Greek and Roman eras where doctors used dreams for healing or therapists used dreams for healing. Do you see that happening?
I sure hope so. It's so refreshing. And it's not just me saying this. I know many others who feel so comforted and refreshed and just good overall when they can share their dreams with whether it's their medical team, psychiatry team, other therapists or counselors, any kind of healthcare team. When those professionals are open to hearing about their client or patient's dreams, it just changes things for the better. And we know, right, with COVID, dreams are now in the mainstream media. We see dreams in articles on dreaming in Newsweek, Scientific American, New Yorker, New York Times. I mean, these are just some examples of mainstream media that has been paying attention to people's dream experiences. So I feel like maybe we're on our way to trusting in each person's intuitive inner, wisdom, and that it's okay to talk about this part of our lives. It's a shame when people want to hide it from professionals. It's really sad. And they often want to hide it because of judgment or just maybe past experiences where things haven't gone so well when they shared those things. And if I can add, Debbie, I consider this the case as well, because in my first book, Extraordinary Dreams, in that book, women told me, I was interviewing women for my doctoral work, and a lot of that is in the book Extraordinary Dreams. And women would say, oh, but I won't tell this to my OBGYN. Here were pregnant women having a really powerful experience of who they considered to be the child they were carrying, using dreams to make medical decisions, even in some cases, but wouldn't talk to their healthcare professionals out of fear of judgment, being told they were crazy, and all of this. And we know from history that women who have had, let's say, a deep connection to the unseen, to these forces, have not always been treated well. So historically, that brings us back to the beginning of this conversation. So that kind of brings us full circle.
Speaking of full circle, I just have time for this final question, which is, how can people find out more about you and your work?
Well, thank you for asking. My website is consciouschimera.com. So that's, conscious, CONSCIOUS, and chimera is spelled CHIMERA. Consciouschimera.com is where one can find my publications, my website, how to work with me, my blog, and upcoming retreats opportunities as well.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank you, Debbie. That was a fun talk.
Thank you. We've been speaking with psychotherapist and dream worker, Dr. Kimberly Mascaro. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If you have, please tell all your friends, follow me, and drop a positive review on your podcast site. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio on the amazing Women and Men of Power Network. the world's leading positive programming network, powered by Raven International.